rise to your feet. Help me get the energy going. Let's say it. Born a champion. Born a champion. Born a champion. Turn to your neighbor and say, you're born a champion. All right. Give yourself a round of applause. Wow, that was good. Well, at least we're awake tonight, right? We're off to a good start. Excellent. Welcome, everyone. How many of you been to a workshop before? Keep your hand up. Good, awesome. How many of you guys have been to 5 or more workshops? 10 or more workshops? 20 or more workshops? 30 or more? 50? 70? Still got some hands up. 100? Getting close to our 100 plus club.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, give yourselves a pat on the back for that. Yeah, you deserve that. And how many of you guys are guests in the room? Never been to a workshop? I'll tell you what, if you've never been to a workshop before, if it's your first workshop, if you're a guest, welcome, welcome. If this is your first workshop and you're a patient, keep your hand up. No? Okay, good. Well, you all are in for a surprise tonight. We have some, we got some great entertainment. Yeah, I'm going to entertain you tonight. Yeah. You might just learn a few things. I might learn a few things. So we're going to talk about cancer prevention, and if you come to the workshops every month, you know there's a different topic. We take the workshops very seriously, and every month there's a different topic that covers the most prevalent health problems that people suffer from and are medicated for and die early from. So when we sit down and we learn about this stuff, it's all about prevention. So if you look at next month's topic, we have anti-aging and detox. How many of you guys are interested in learning about more youth and vitality? Say, yes, I want to turn the clock back. So that's what we're going to get down to, and talk a little bit about detox tonight. But next month is really going to dig deeper into the details of that and the solutions that are available. So put that on your calendar, May 13th. It's going to be a great event. Let's talk right about cancer. Let's just get right into it. We've got a lot to cover, short amount of time. So let's get into the important things. Cancer today compared to decades ago, is it better or worse? Worse. Everybody knows that. Yeah, so it's in 1940s, 1 out of 16. 1970s, 1 out of 10. Today it's what? 1 out of 3. Every 2.5 seconds there's another diagnosis of cancer. It's horrible. We hear it all the time. Hear it all the time. There's not a day that goes by. You don't read about somebody who died from cancer. You don't hear about somebody who got diagnosed with cancer. Friends, family. It's a horrible affliction. And I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about not just the things that we need to do, but we need to talk about our mindset on this, because if you look at that, 1 out of 3, it's really 1 out of 2 men and 1 out of 3 women. You have to think, who's it going to be next? You look at the person to your right or left, and, statistically speaking, it's going to hit home. And that's why many of you guys are sitting here right now, because you don't want that to happen. The other part of it is, if it does happen, because there is a high likelihood that you're going to have that conversation with your doctor at some point, right or right? Yeah, so they're doing all these tests. When you go looking for trouble, what do you find? Trouble. So you're going to have that conversation with your doctor at some point, so it would be good to learn as much as you can so you don't get stuck in harm's way. Some of you guys have been there before. Some of you guys, you may want to start thinking about tonight what you can start doing better. You can talk to any oncologist on the planet today, and they'll all be in agreement that most cancers can probably be prevented if you started with a healthy lifestyle. When? Earlier. Yeah. So when we start talking about this stuff, you very well should be thinking, well, that's something I need to start doing more of, or maybe that's something I need to start doing less of, or maybe I need to get serious about this and maybe start losing some weight. Maybe I need to exercise more. Maybe I need to look into this detox thing a little bit deeper. That could be you. Start taking this seriously. Do not leave here the same person you walked in with. Let's not waste your time. I'm going to have a good time anyway. You're not going to waste my time. But I want you to get something out of this tonight, and I put some thought into this, and I think for all of us, the reality is that if you're not living your life right now like you have cancer, the odds are that you'll probably get it. What does that speak to? Prevention. Prevention. we're not speaking that over you. We don't want that for you. We don't want anybody to get a disease. But the reality is if you're not doing something to prevent it, odds are that you will get it. So why not start taking this seriously right now? What was it? 1 out of 16 in 1940, 1 out of 3 now. Has our DNA really changed that much since the 1940s? Hello? You know, what has changed since the 1940s? Yeah, all the things that create a bad environment for our DNA. The DNA hasn't changed, but what we've done to flip on the bad genes or turn them off, that has changed. But when we talk about epigenetics, what does that mean? That means that's above or beyond the genetics. What has preeminence? What can actually control those genes is the environment that you subject your body to. That's what epigenetics is. And epigenetics is what? More powerful than your DNA. Your DNA is not your destiny. It's what you do to change the expression of the DNA, which is going to give you the outcome of whether or not you get diabetes, whether or not you get cancer, whether or not you get a heart attack, whether or not you get Alzheimer's, right? And that's really what this is coming to. And science is talking about this all over. Like every doctor is coming to their senses knowing that this is a reality, but they don't have the standard of care and the tools yet to address this when you go to their office, at least at this point. So genes can be turned on or what? Off. So tonight we're going to talk about cancer-promoting genes that you're either turning on or cancer genes that you're turning off. Cancer-fighting genes can be turned on or cancer-fighting genes can be turned off. And obviously you know which two you need to do. Which numbers? Number 2 and number 3. You want to turn off the cancer-promoting genes and turn on the cancer-fighting genes. And that's specifically what we're going to cover tonight. So, what would influence that? First and foremost, we're going to talk about what not to do. Okay, so primarily what's going to turn on the cancer-promoting genes and turn off the cancer-fighting genes is exactly what I'm going to talk about right now. Cancer-causing treatments. All these things we've been subjected to, we haven't given much thought. We really didn't know what to do instead, but we did it. Did it for ourselves, we did it for our kids. Cholesterol drugs, right? Why'd you take cholesterol drugs? Who told you to do that? The doctor did. You know, why would my doctor tell me to do something that wasn't safe? Well, standard of care. Sorry guys, they're not going to tell you any different. But cholesterol drugs now, you guys know from every Heart Smart Nutrition workshop we've ever done, the cholesterol drugs in and of themselves, when they take your cholesterol down, studies show it increases your risk of what? Cancer. Some studies show it increases your risk of breast cancer by anywhere from 83 to 143%. So again, here you go, we're trying to prevent one disease, and what does it cause? You're treating one disease and causes another. Yeah, never a good idea. Antibiotics, again, we give it to our children. My parents gave it to me. Why? We didn't know any better. But if you stop and think about it, when you take well, first of all, what's a probiotic? What does it do? It builds up the intestinal flora. And why is that important? Because 80% of your immune system is in the intestinal flora, your microbiome, right? So are probiotics a good idea? Yes. Is the intestinal flora important for a healthy immune system? Yes. So when you take antibiotic, what does that mean? You're against the probiotic. You're against your immune system. Okay? So we don't stop and think about that, but the doctor hands a prescription for us, and we don't want to be a bad patient, and it starts when? When we're kids. When we're kids, and it impairs our ability to build a healthy, strong immune system, which increases our risk of cancer later on in life as well. We get antibiotics for dental procedures. We get antibiotics at the drop of a hat. Somebody cut their finger, and the doctor gave them they had 5 stitches, right? And then they give them a thing of antibiotics. I'm like, what? Hello? I think the body can sometimes heal itself. Sometimes, maybe, I hope. I'll hold my breath. Women taking 1 aspirin daily for 5 years or more increase their risk of breast cancer by what? 80%. There you go. What they tell you to take an aspirin a day for to prevent heart disease. Well, I just clipped this from USA Today a couple of weeks ago. Don't take an aspirin a day to prevent heart attacks or strokes. Doctors are now reversing their recommendations. Guys, we've been doing these workshops for 20 years. How many times have we had this conversation? Right? you know, a blockbuster drug or this recommendation you see on the 6 o'clock news, and then 5 years later, after tens of thousands of people die, they take it off the market and they say, oh, we were sorry. But nobody holds the medical profession or the drug industry. Sometimes big pharma gets a slap on the wrist and they have to pay a $2 billion fine, but not a bad day at the market for making $20 billion on a blockbuster drug. So we have to, just be realistic. There's a lot of spin that goes on these things, a lot of marketing, and sometimes it takes a decade for the truth to come out. But don't ever think that you could take a medication without it having a side effect. And many of these, again, are causing cancer. Blood pressure medications, 4 blood pressure drugs were recalled within the last year for having an impurity causing what? Cancer. Many of you sitting in the room or your relatives who are on this stuff. Valsartan, losartan, I see it on everybody's intake form. Probably 4 out of 6 adults who come in, they're on losartan. Irbesartan, so again, it's, so stop doing the things that cause cancer. One of them, drugs, prescription medication. It's called iatrogenic disease. It's called doctor-induced disease. So is there a time and a place for medication? Of course there is. But if these prescription drugs were correcting the cause, you wouldn't need to take it for the rest of your life. The only thing that will correct the cause is the lifestyle changes. Are you guys with me? Yeah. Right? So, okay, so, all right, so what else causes cancer? Mammography. Mammography, every year you have a mammography, because of the massive radiation that comes with it, it increases your risk of cancer by 1%. You do mammographies for 10 years, you've increased your risk of breast cancer by 10%. And so there's massive radiation that's exposed, plus the fact that there's massive amounts of pressure placed on the tissue. So if there are cancerous cells in there, you're increasing the likelihood that they rupture and risk spreading of them. Much greater risk than if you left it alone and did nothing at all. Further studies from the British Medical Journal after 25 years and 90,000 women studied actually support that. They said the death rates from breast cancer were the same in women who got mammograms and those who did not. Yep. The risk of having at least one false positive result after 10 screenings was almost 50%. So if you're going to go for a mammogram, remember, if you go into the lion's den, just be prepared for a fight. If you go looking for trouble, you're going to find it. And so you always have to remember that. Why do they do the screenings? Why do they do the screenings? First of all, who made the screenings so popular? Where did that come from? Susan B. Komen Foundation, right? That came from AstraZeneca, who created breast cancer drugs, tamoxifen and Arimidex. They're the makers of the breast cancer drugs, so they're the ones that created this whole movement back in 1985. They had the drugs to treat it, so how do we get awareness for more people to get more screenings so that they can take more drugs? So we see all these races for the cure, and it seems like this humanitarian thing. And most of the people involved, they really do want to be helpful. They've lost loved ones to cancer, but they really don't know where it comes from and where the money goes. Where do you think the money that's raised, the billions and billions of dollars that's been raised, in the last few decades, where has that gone to?
More drugs. Right?
More drugs. Yeah, there's research. Yeah, not a cure. We're not any closer to a cure now for cancer, at least conventionally speaking, than we were when they started this. There's more cases of cancer than ever, but it's good because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Cancer is an industry. You guys got that? Yeah. The diagnosis, the treatment, it's an industry. It's one of the most profitable industries on the planet today. And when you, or God forbid, or a loved one gets diagnosed with cancer, this is the portal, this is the funnel that you go into. And the doctors very often are being used as pawns because they're being educated by the drug companies. So they believe this to be true. It's a paradigm. It's like, how many of you guys remember the movie The Matrix? Right? Mm-hmm. You think you're in reality. You think that this is real, but it's not. Yeah, it's really not. Because when you step outside the United States and you meet somebody like a Dr. Helu, who's an oncologist, practices in Marbella, Spain, where my mom went, who's also a medical doctor and oncologist, who understands what happens, when you take that route. They do different things, and they know how the whole thing works. somehow they wind up being politically correct so that they respect one another. But all right, I'll get to that point. I'll circle back. I don't want to get off track here, but the reality is that unfortunately a lot of these drugs, they do have side effects, and they wind up causing different types of cancers: leukemia, liver, uterine, gastrointestinal cancers. So the same drugs that were used for treating breast cancer. It's pretty sad. So the over-screening, all these the overutilization of diagnostics, it subjects a lot of people to a lot of unnecessary treatment than if they would have just left it alone. So this came out of the Journal of the American Medical Association not too long ago. One of the doctors, the oncologist, was saying our technologies have gotten so good that we can find early cancers or things that look like cancer that if what? Left alone would never grow, spread, and harm the patient. What do they mean by left alone? What does that mean? Like, why would the doctor say that? Like, the medical doctor saying, just leave it alone. What are they inherently admitting if they say leave it alone? It would never grow and spread and harm the patient. What are they inherently admitting? That the body can't heal itself. The body can't heal itself. Right then and there, that's a contradiction, right? It's a contradiction because either you believe that all healing comes from the outside in, the body's stupid, and you can control it and make it do what you want it to do, or you understand that healing comes from the inside out. You can't have one foot in the door and one out. It's one or the other. Now there's a time and a place. So like if somebody's stage 4 and you got to kill that cancer and you have to use chemo, it's life and death, they don't have a lot of time, there may be a situation, but understanding that you're poisoning the body in that situation, but sometimes you just catch it too late. You have to do that. You have to shrink the tumor. But if you catch it early enough, here's what they're saying. Hey, if it's benign, if it's not malignant, oh, how about that? Your body knows how to make cancer cells, and your body knows how to destroy cancer cells. And somewhere along the line, hopefully we meet doctors that understand that. And you have, the more that you understand, the more that you can intellectually engage a doctor in that conversation. And they're going to give you statistics, but at the end of the show, ultimately, you're the one that has to make that decision. And I'm going to give you the tools and the resources tonight for Plan B, if you ever have to go there. So how about PSA screenings? What are the PSA screenings supposed to tell us? Whether or not you have prostate cancer. So Annals of Internal Medicine reported on this. PSA testing is not specific to prostate cancer. What can cause elevated PSA levels? Infection, yep. And what else? Benign prostatic enlargement. Yeah. So my dad you can imagine he was freaking out because he just got back from Spain with my mom and her cancer treatment. He goes for a PSA test, it's 27. Whoa! Yeah, like you would wake up, men, right? If your PSA test was 27.
What's the normal range?
Normal range is like 2, 3, right? So, yeah, so, my dad is kind of like in this camp of thought that we have, but he's still freaking out. He's like, well, what do I do? The doctor wants to do a biopsy. I'm like, listen, here's the thing. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily indicate that you have prostate cancer. He did an exam. He didn't find anything, right? He didn't suspect that you have prostate cancer. He just said you have an abnormally high PSA. What can cause that? Well, benign enlargement, infection, and what has he been doing for the last 6 months, almost every single day? Riding his bike. Do you think that might have an effect on your prostate? Yes, yeah. So you got to slow down. Like, don't allow fear to make your decisions for you. Do your research and take a step back. And when they start doing studies on this, all of it comes to the surface. Potential harms from PSA screenings. Yeah, I mean, if this wasn't my dad, he'd be going for a biopsy, he'd be going for more tests, there'd be more anxiety. What does anxiety, by the way, do to your immune system? Make it stronger or weaker? What does that do to your risk of cancer in the end? Imagine all the anxiety that people endure going for mammographies, the positive results, right? The false positives, going for biopsies.
And they have to pay for it.
They have to pay for it. The cost to the insurance, the cost to them, and it's just, It's insane, the amount of anxiety that's created going through this process. It's enough to give you cancer even if you don't have it. So in 2002, the outcome of this particular study found inconclusive evidence that screenings and early detection improved health outcomes. So if you are wondering about PSA screenings, you know, no different than mammographies, it doesn't show any benefit one way or the other. With chemotherapy, again, I don't want to be preaching to the choir, but I don't want this to come from me. Like, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer a year and a half ago, and she particularly did not want the radiation or the chemotherapy that the doctors recommended. She was dead set against it. She saw what happened to her friends after they had that, the quality of life, and then early death. You know, they had the ones who had the chemo, they were okay for a little while, and then it came right back. So when you listen to this medical doctor, you'll understand exactly why. So remember, you know, when you're watching this, think about you being in this position, because again, it very well may happen, and you have to anchor yourself as far as what reality is, and that'll help you expand what your options are to make decisions at that point.
They only kill.
Let me start this one more time so you can hear it from the beginning.
The trouble with chemotherapy and conventional treatments is they have no effect on the cancer stem cell. They only kill the daughter cells, the cells that are produced by it. So the tumor will shrink, and they'll claim success, but you haven't killed the stem cell, so it all just comes right back. And what they found is when it comes back infinitely more aggressive than it did before. And why would that be? It's kind of complex chemistry, but it has to do with the chemical changes and what we call the microenvironment of the stem cell. And what you're doing, you're producing a lot of cytokines around the stem cell. These are inflammatory chemicals. Those inflammatory chemicals produce even greater DNA damage. So the cancer that comes back is more malignant than the one that started. So what they're finding is when you treat patients with chemotherapy and radiation and you don't cure them, then you make the cancer infinitely more aggressive and patients will be dying.
Is that making sense? Okay. So it's typically what you've seen happen. Now you know why. It's interesting, isn't it? So you know when you look at cancer, when you hear about people who have cancer, what we've been brainwashed to think is that, okay, well, we have to shrink it with chemotherapy or radiation. You gotta kill it from the outside in. Like, cancer is this thing, right? It's a tumor, something that you can actually tangibly kill, right? And then when you're done with the chemotherapy, then and the cancer's gone, it's gone. Well, that's wrong. That's wrong. The cancer is not the tumor. The cancer is actually the condition, the sickness of the internal environment that allows the opportunity for the tumor to grow. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. First the person gets sick, then they get cancer. So you go and kill the tumor, whatever, just because they do that, and they say they cured the cancer or the tumor's gone, that doesn't mean that their cancer is gone. That just means that the effect of the cancer is gone. And so when you look at a dirty fish tank, and you understand that, let's say we irradiated the water, you know, we made the water highly toxic, what of course would happen to the fish? They die. So what would be the ideal approach to cure a sick fish? Should we inject those fish with some sort of chemotherapy? No. Why not? Leave the water dirty, but treat the fish. Why not? That doesn't make sense. But that's exactly what we do with the standard of care when you go through typical oncological treatment. The body is sick. It's toxic from all the stuff that we're going to go into. Typically that person's diabetic, they're on multiple prescription drugs. Cancer has just had a phenomenal opportunity to party for decades in there. And now you go and you kill the cancer, but you haven't solved the toxic problem, the toxic environment. So you look at the picture to the right, and what do you see different? You've made a much better environment for those fish to survive in. Doesn't it make sense to make your body a much healthier environment so that you can survive in it? And don't you know that cancer doesn't like that? Cancer does not like a healthy environment in your body. It's not hospitable for it. So the question really becomes, if you don't like the thought of chemotherapy and radiation, you see how sick people feel and they get and what it causes. Nobody would ever want that. It's horrible to go through that. What can we do instead to start cleaning up our fishbowl, right? What can we do instead to start cleaning up the environment? And when should we start doing that? Right now, yeah. So I can assure you, many of our fish bowls are quite dirty. They could use some cleaning. Wouldn't you agree? Okay, so let's talk about cleaning up the environment. In 1931, this man won a Nobel Prize, Dr. Otto Warburg. He was on the front lines in World War I. He was a colonel on the front lines. He was actually in battle when he got a letter from Albert Einstein in Germany to come home and pioneer research. Hitler had a conversation with Albert Einstein to get him to pioneer cancer research in Germany at that time. That's how prolific his mind was. He was a world leader as a scientist. He won a Nobel Prize. He was actually nominated about 15 times. And he won one in 1931 for cancer discovery. He found something really interesting as far as what happens with the metabolism of cancer cells. What he found is that they can't use oxygen to respire. With the metabolism of cancer cells, they respire using fermentation. And what has to ferment to metabolize cancer cells? Sugar. Yeah, sugar. So is the pH important in your body? Yes. You stop and think about a pool. If the pH is off, what happens? What do you get?
Bad environment.
Bad environment. A perfect environment for fungus, yeast, mold, bacteria, all that green stuff, algae, to have an opportunity to grow in there. But if your pH is balanced in the pool, never has an opportunity. It dies off, it kills it off. Same thing exists in your body. And again, this is one of the things that was checked for in my mom when she went to Spain. That's how important this is. The oncologist over there used this. He did a live blood cell microscopy, and he found fermented blood in my mother before she went over there and started care. And this is what it looks like. When all of the cells are kind of stuck together, that fermentation process is a ripe environment for cancer to develop, because that's what fuels cancer. That's what cancer survives in. It cannot survive in an oxygen-rich environment, because cancer doesn't use oxygen to breathe, does it? It doesn't use oxygen for metabolism. It uses what? Sugar. Yeah, the fermentation from the sugar. So what causes that fermented environment? Well, an acidic pH. So the normal blood pH should be 7.365, right around 7 or so. When you start, living on the standard American diet, which is largely processed foods, right? Corn, soy, GMO, alcohol, caffeine, hydrogenated fats, donuts, the cakes, the sugar, the sodas. You look at how much people consume of that. Is it any wonder we have more cancer now than we did, decades ago? Remember, it's the environment. Our DNA hasn't changed, but we're activating the cancer-promoting genes, and we're shutting off the cancer-fighting genes. Right?
Right.
Yeah. So you see that we've been feeding cancer, and you can have cancer treatment, conventional cancer treatment, but if you continue with this acidic diet and lifestyle, it's almost a given it's going to come back. And on top of that, like you saw the medical doctor, the video you just watched, when you start working on the daughter cells and the stem cells, it comes back infinitely more aggressive because you haven't corrected the cause there. It's adding insult to injury, isn't it? So what's the opposite of that? What's the opposite of that? How do you cleanse the internal environment? How do you create health in your internal ecosystem, so to speak? Well, alkaline diet and lifestyle, yeah. So it just so happens that all the foods that God made for the most part, are oxygen-rich, water-rich fruits and vegetables, lemons, limes, tomatoes, avocados, all the green vegetables, the tomatoes, cucumbers, kale, spinach, asparagus, broccoli, cruciferous vegetables. You guys know them. The question is, are we getting enough? There's antioxidants in those that also are necessary to kill off cancer. Very, very important. Alkaline water. You know, how many of you guys drink enough water? Because your body is 70% water. If you're dehydrated, what condition do you think that's contributing to? Acidic, yeah. So how important is it to hydrate all day? I'm going ahead of myself, but one of the slides I'm going to show you is a liter a day keeps the doctor away. Yeah, should be sipping, you know, alkaline water, you know, all day long. And so you guys get the concept, right? So this is really important. And cancer only has one prime cause, and it's the replacement or respiration of oxygen in normal cells by fermentation of sugar. We got to burn that into our brains, because the more sugar we have, the more we're feeding cancer. That's why they use PET scans to determine whether or not a patient has cancer or if they're in remission. The activity that you see on the PET scan is what? Is the metabolism of sugar. The radioactive tracer is made of what? Is sugar. Yeah. So, kind of beating a dead horse here. You want to starve the cancer, you want to kill the cancer, you have to stop the what? Sugar. So let me just stop here and kind of bifurcate the conversation. You know, some people, they're like, they got a cancer diagnosis. You have friends that you wanted to be here, they're in the hospital, they just got diagnosed, and these are people that should kill sugar 100% completely. Like, stop it. Don't go near it, don't think about it, don't look at it, don't do it. Okay? But some of you in here know that you could have less, you know. And I was thinking about it today, like, how much sugar have I had today? Well, I woke up and what did I have? After I worked out, I had a shake. I had a complete clean shake, which doesn't really have any sugar other than what's in there. It's like the fructose sugar. It's like 10 or 15 grams of fructose sugar. Then I had some berries, antioxidants, right? Okay, cancer fighting. Then I had some raw almond butter with that, okay? So typically speaking, was there really any sugar there? Like, was there a donut? Was there oatmeal? Was there anything that could possibly break down to sugar? No. Then what did I have after that? I had, a couple hours later, I had a bar. I had something called a paleo bar, which has like 3 grams of sugar in it. It's got 12 grams of protein and probably 10 grams of fat. And that held me over until I was starving at about 11:30, and that's when I had an early lunch. And I had a salad with extra virgin olive oil with some almonds, avocados, tomatoes, a little bit of vinegar, and that was it. And then I came in, and about 2 o'clock, I had a good bunch of almonds, lots of good what? Fat. And then I had a shake a couple of hours ago. So where's the sugar in that? There's no sugar there. Can I ask you a question? Could you do that?
Yes.
Could you do that? Yeah. The only difference is if you're not doing it now, you just have to plan it out that way. Stock your pantry. You know, stop and think. If you're going to work the next day, plan out all your stuff and take it with you. You know, just plan and prepare your meals. Do I like sugar? Yeah, I do. You know, yes.
Just out of curiosity, there's foods, like you mentioned, that turn into sugar. Like if I were to eat an apple or a potato or, you know, are those the same?
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. That's a good point. So, okay, so how many of you guys know there's high sugar fruits and low sugar fruits? All right, so the low sugar fruits are all the berries: blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, blueberries, all those low sugar fruits. And then with that goes the Granny Smith apples. When you start getting into the Fiji apples, there's going to be more sugar in that. Bananas, mangoes, pineapples, all the ones that go zing. So typically you'll really know what the higher sugars are because you like them, because they're really super sweet, right? And the boring fruits are the ones with low sugar, you know, the melons and stuff like that. So just, you know, these are, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but just as a general, does that help a little bit? And these are, if you go and do a Google search, you'll find high sugar fruits, low sugar fruits, and my point is that we don't want to, I'm not saying, and this is where I was going with the conversation. So for those of you who know you should be getting better with this, this is a typical day for me. like no sugar today, right? And I'll do that tomorrow, and I'll do that, and if I go into the pantry and I see my wife's healthy cookies there, and the unhealthy cookies and stuff like that, the temptation is there. But I think about how good it's going to taste, but then I think about how bad I'm going to feel like within the half hour after that. And I think about not only that, but I think about how my waist is going to get puffy also. And I start negatively anchoring myself to those things and just saying, it's not worth it. And then the whole week goes by. So today's Monday, and then by Thursday I'm thinking, all right, I'm looking forward to Vito's tomorrow because I'm going to have 2 slices with the sausage and the pepperoni. So like Friday's my cheat day. All right. So can you have a cheat day? Yes, you can. If you don't have a condition, a diagnosed condition is not licensed to have a cheat day. A diagnosed condition is like a 5-alarm alert. Like, don't cheat. Don't do that for a long time until you're in remission. And I'm talking to some people in here right now, okay? But for most of us in the room, if you want to reverse diabetes, if you want to get off your blood pressure meds, if you want to knock off 20 pounds so fast it'll make your head spin, no sugar the whole week. And then one day, have a party. It's good because it's going to reset your metabolism anyway. Just some food for thought. Because at the root of all degenerative disease is what? Sugar. Yeah. So this is the typical American consuming 50 teaspoons of sugar a day. There's a typical hospital meal right there. You just got done with your chemotherapy or your radiation treatment, and they put a bunch of noodles in front of you and fried chicken. That's good for healing, isn't it? Yeah, good for business. Keep coming back. So let's again talk about. I was talking to somebody today who's actually not here at the workshop. I was like, "So you coming to the workshop?" She said, "No, I'm not coming to the workshop." And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so she's in her mid-70s. I know she's an exercise fiend. She exercises every day. So she smelled like food. So where's Denise? So you're the second person who smelled like food today. I said, so what are you making? I'm always curious to see what who's a good chef and whatnot. So I said, what are you making? She's like, this and that. I don't know. She started getting into like chips and hummus. I'm like, oh, what kind of chips? She's like, like whole grain chips. And I'm like, okay, so that's a typical. Like here's the exposure, like grains. What do they spray grains with today? Pesticides. So are you specifically buying grains that are non-GMO? Number one. Number two, even after the grains break down, what do they trigger? They cause inflammation. Yeah, a spike in insulin, and an insulin surge. And when that happens, what are you feeding? Cancer. So again, it just depends on who you are and how serious you are with this. It can happen with rice, noodles, bread, potatoes, even Cheerios. Cheerios? Yeah, like when I think of Cheerios, like when I see that bowl of Cheerios, I see a big red heart right behind it. Do you? Yeah, because I've watched decades worth of commercials to drive that, to market that to me. And when you read the label on the box, you'll see how many sugars and all the bad stuff in there. It's in everything. You have to read the labels and stand guard. Another thing that triggers inflammation, spreads inflammation, contributing to cancer, is these bad fats, the hydrogenated oils. And they're in everything from peanut butter to sometimes almond butter, margarine, yodels, all the donuts that we're eating on Sundays, your air-popped popcorn. And what's interesting, what I learned? It's funny because, like how many of you guys did the DNA testing? When you read your report, so this is what I learned. Even if I eat good, like if I have, let's say, chicken and just vegetables, if I get it in a place that grills it with bad fats, I get the same bad response. I feel poopy the next day, my waist gets all swollen, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I mean, I had chicken and vegetables. No, you had hydrogenated fats, which causes inflammation. And I have the gene that screws me up from doing that. Do you? Probably. You don't know. You don't know unless you look at your DNA report, and that's one of the things that I learned. So I am super careful right now. That's one of the things that I've avoided like the plague, these trans fats, especially when you go out to eat. But obviously it's much more controllable in your pantry. Yes?
Did you know vegetable oil doesn't even come from vegetables?
Did you know that vegetable oil doesn't even come from vegetables?
No vegetables at all.
Yeah. It's like a Frankenstein oil. It's seriously, like your body doesn't know what to do with it. Your body does not know what to do with it. Imagine this, like on the cells, every cell needs these nutrients to come in, vitamins and things like that. And on the surface of the cell, you have these receptors. But, you know, God made these specifically foods to connect with these receptors that know what the foods are, because your body was made by God and the food was made by God. So it's like it's supposed to be a lock and key fit. Now you get this Frankenfood that's made in the laboratory, and it comes and it tries to get into your cell. What does your cell do? It doesn't know what to do with it, and that's why it drives inflammation at the surface of the cell, and it screws up your DNA. This is all starting to make sense now, isn't it? So we need cancer-killing fats instead of cancer-causing fats. Monounsaturated oils, almonds, extra virgin olive oil, can't get enough of that stuff. Avocados, coconut oil, raw nuts and seeds, salmon, sardines, fatty fish, all the oily fish. Especially the monounsaturated oils are anti-inflammatory. A lot of the other oils will also help you burn fat. So take stock, and again, you may need to do more of this. Go over to Publix or Whole Foods, get yourself some raw almonds. Carry it around with you. I have a big bowl of that right in there, and that's what I snack on. Every other Wednesday, when I go to Fresh Market and I have lunch, I pick up a pound bag, and I make sure that I'm always stocked up. If I go on a road trip, if I go drive 12 hours, I make sure I'm stocked up with almonds. And I know how well my body does. I know how good I feel when I do it. The question is, do you? Are you aware of when you feel good, when you're running on high performance fuel, and when you're not? Do you have that awareness, or do you just feel poopy all the time? You should ask yourself these questions, because either you're a high performance vehicle, and if you've been putting low octane in your gas tank all this time, you don't feel any different. You don't know any different. But when you start putting jet fuel in, then you're going to feel a difference. You're going to have more energy. You can think better. You're going to have more joy. You can do more. You can serve more. You got better quality of life, and that's what this all amounts to, right? Looks like I have another video here. I wonder what it is.
Dr. Fred Hatfield is an impressive guy. He's a powerlifting champion, author, millionaire businessman with a beautiful wife. But he'll tell you his greatest accomplishment is killing his cancer, just in the nick of time.
The doctors gave me 3 months to live because of widespread metastatic cancer in my skeletal structure. 3 months. 3 different doctors told me that same thing.
It's a horrible, horrible feeling to have someone tell you that the person that you love only has 3 months to live and you're not going to be with him anymore.
While Fred was preparing to die, he heard about an anti-cancer diet, also known as metabolic therapy. With nothing to lose, he gave it a try and was shocked when it actually worked.
And the cancer was gone, completely. To this day, there's no trace of it, and it's been over a year.
Although it wasn't easy, Fred stopped eating carbohydrates because carbohydrates turn into glucose inside your body. Cancer cells love glucose and need it so badly that if you stop giving it to them, they die.
And it just absolutely amazes me that medical science is just now finding this out.
Fred's recovery was not a surprise to Dr. Dominic D'Agostino. His team of scientists at the University of South Florida study metabolic therapy. When they removed carbohydrates from the diets of lab mice, the mice survived highly aggressive metastatic cancer, even better than when they were treated with chemotherapy.
We have dramatically increased survival with metabolic therapy. So we think it's important to get this information out.
And it's not just lab mice. He's also seen similar success in people, lots of them.
I've been in correspondence with a number of people, probably at least a dozen people, and over the last 1.5 to 2 years, and all of them are still alive, so despite the odds. And so this is very encouraging.
All cells, including cancer cells, are fueled by glucose. But if you deprive them of glucose, they switch to the alternate fuel, ketone bodies, all except cancer cells. A defect prevents them from making the switch to using ketone bodies as fuel, and therefore cancer cells can only survive on glucose. All other cells can use either glucose or ketone bodies.
Your normal cell.
So he was one of the original researchers that was using ketones and publishing the research on how it helped people that had seizure patients. So when they put them in ketosis, the seizures stopped. But that's what led to this research. And so you guys are aware now that when you eliminate the sugar, your body doesn't just need sugar to run. Like, it's not going to die. Immediately it starts using a different source of fuel. You saw that? Does that make sense? Yeah. But cancer cells can't do that. And that's why the ketosis, or using what they call exogenous ketones, which means like you can take a supplement, beta-hydroxybutyrate or something like that, which will induce metabolic ketosis, and they'll help with that. And they've done research on that and shown how that's about 30% more effective than metformin, and controlling your blood pressure and helping stabilize blood sugar levels. So what's the ketogenic diet? What do you not see in this picture right here?
Carbohydrates.
You don't see any carbohydrates, do you? I mean, not even fruits, vegetables. Now, here's the thing. There's another diet called the paleo diet. And it's very similar to this. Only difference is there are some fruits and vegetables in there. For some people, the ketogenic diet is a little too extreme. And but I will say this: like, if you're a cancer patient or a loved one, this is the way to go. This is what you need to do to stop it dead in its tracks. Beyond that, a paleo diet is easier. There's more variety. But at the same time, there's really no complex carbohydrates. You don't see breads, rice, pasta, potatoes. You know, what they told us in kindergarten, they taught us the food pyramid, 60% of our daily intake should be that, right? And that's contributing to all the cases of cancer that we have. So this is what I take in the morning. Like, before I work out, I don't have any sugar. Like, I used to be a bodybuilder many years ago. And you know, one of the most important things that you can do as far as having a good workout is what? Carbing up. And I learned this many years ago when I ran the Disney Marathon. I hired a personal trainer. He's like, no, you don't need carbs. Your body can do just fine on fats. And so the night before I ran the Disney Marathon, I had salmon, I had water-soaked almonds, and I actually took water-soaked almonds on the run with me. And I ran 5 hours just on fat. That was it. I had no carbs at all. So I knew this to be true, and then this is something that came as an opportunity for me to try, and I just started doing it. So in the mornings, I'll mix this up in some water 20 minutes before I work out, and these are exogenous ketones, which helps give you energy for your workout, but it also gets your body primed for ketosis and gets you into fat burning. So that's something that's available. I just wanted to let you guys know that there is a supplement that helps to promote ketosis, performance, focus, mental energy, overall better energy. So I wanted to mention that. You know, breakfast, lunch, dinner, this is what things should be looking like. At least, 5-6 days out of the week, right? You know, you got your shake in the morning. We talk about that all the time. That's the breakfast of champions. You got your berries, you got your almond butter. Be careful with your almond butter, Be careful with, peanuts. If you're doing peanut butter, it's 26 different types of fungus in peanuts. Did you know that? It's not the best. It's not like, there's other worse things, right? But it's not the best thing. So go for raw whenever you can. Spend the extra money. You're worth it. In the end, when you get diagnosed with disease and you start spending money on medications, it's always much more expensive than if you do it preventatively. Eat the good stuff, non-GMO. Get the raw almonds, raw butter, all the raw stuff, and that's what should go in your breakfast. Low sugar fruits, right, Teresa? You see it right there. Low sugar fruits, and you can have a Granny Smith apple with the almond butter. So that goes well with the shake. For lunch, what do you have? You got your salad, you got your salmon. You can have a chicken breast, lots of extra virgin olive oil, lots of good fat for lunch. You can have an avocado on there. You can have a whole avocado.
But you don't cook with that olive oil, right?
Right. You don't cook with the olive oil. Do you know what happens when you cook with olive oil on high heat? It breaks it down, turns a good fat into a bad one. So that's a good point. If you want to cook on high heat, avocado or coconut oil, those are better alternatives. Yeah. So what do you see for dinner? You see lamb chops. What's so great about lamb chops?
Fat.
Yeah, they're low fat, but they're also grass fed. Yeah. So that's what you got to be careful of when you start eating the meat. You don't want to eat too much meat because it raises estrogen levels, and the studies show correlation with elevated estrogen levels and higher risk of cancer. So you got to keep that in your back pocket too. Don't have too much red meat, but if you are going to have red meat every now and then, make sure it's grass fed. And then,
too.
What's that?
Beer as well, raises estrogen.
Beer?
Beer.
Yeah, well, alcohol, that, and it's also fermented, so going into the alkaline acid range, that's how that would work also. All right, so just to give you guys some ideas, are the wheels turning? Yes or yes?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So I want to invite my staff up to help me recognize some of my favorite peeps here. You're all my favorite peeps, but I just want to recognize some people here for, all right, so perfect adjustment attendance. Now, there's only a handful of people that we can actually mention at every event. So there are others of you in here who do have very good adjustment attendance, but we want to recognize these people for never missing an appointment, and even if they do, they're quick on the phone to help us reschedule so that, those of us with young kids aren't here till 8 o'clock calling everybody, right, Deborah? No, that's not your problem. But, tomorrow she's got a little girl, but that's, when you guys stay on track with your adjusting schedule, you get great results, and that's the most important thing. So we want to show our appreciation for a few of you guys here, and when we call your name, just stand up, and we can all recognize them all at the same time, and then we're going to crown them with a Medal of Honor. First one is Liz. Don't stand up, give her a round of applause. Nadine, where's Nadine? I saw Nadine in here. Where's Nadine? Did she leave? Yeah. Is Nadine not here?
No.
Not anymore.
Someone else.
You can take it for it. All right. And then we have Ivan and Simona Aguilera. You guys stand up. Give them a big round of applause. Good. Awesome. And okay, so we have our award for 6 or more workshops, and this is our University Core 4 degree. This goes to Louise Harris. Where's Louise? Hey.
Thank you. I'm feeling kind of chic. Thank you.
Very nice. And I want to also invite Simona and Ivan up here. If you guys can come up for just a second, there's one more thing I want to recognize you guys for. Okay. So, 2 wonderful people, a wonderful family, and I think somebody was telling you to come here for how long? 5 years? 5 years. So for those of you guys who say, I keep telling them that they're not coming, blah, blah, 5 years is on average. That's usually what we see. It takes 5 years for the seeds to come to fruition, enough suffering. But these 2 are great examples of that, and then also sharing. Now, they got their whole family under care, and starting with their kids. The main reason why they came in was because of the kids. And I think one of the things that you told me was, besides your back pain and a little bit with you too, the main thing was with the kids. They couldn't drive with the kids without them getting sick and vomiting all over the place. They were living on Dramamine, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So tell very briefly what has happened since. I mean, they've been getting adjusted for what, 3 weeks now? 4 weeks? Yeah, about 4 weeks, 5 weeks. What has happened since the kids have been getting adjusted? Since the first adjustment, what did you tell me the other day?
No more Dramamine.
No more Dramamine since the first adjustment, either of them. But it was bad. I mean, you said
really bad. Any drive over 20 minutes, we'd have to give them Dramamine.
Can you imagine that?
And then my son used to have ear infections galore, and he's had swollen lymph nodes from the, I guess there was a, I don't know, subluxation.
Yeah, from the subluxation, yeah.
And he hasn't had an ear infection. We took him to the ear doctor. The doctor said there's no fluid, no wax.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have swollen lymph nodes anymore.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord. Hey, I wanted to just give this gift to you guys.
Thank you.
And just show you that how much we love and appreciate you. Thank you so much.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
You appreciate our life.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome watching it. And then they just they brought other family members in, and it's just an amazing blessing. So, love and appreciate you guys very much. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. All right, so last thing we're going to do is stand up and turn and face the neighbor on your right, and put your hands on their shoulders. We want to do our famous massage, squeeze, get all that stress out. All right, good. Karate chop. Karate chiropractic. Good, good, good. All right, turn around and love your other neighbor.
So good.
All right, karate chop. Woohoo! You guys liking that? Yeah. All right, give yourself a round of applause. Awesome, awesome. All right, heads up, here it comes. Woohoo! Coming out. Way in the back. Oh! Very nice, very nice. Okay, so remember I said you gotta make sure that you're staying hydrated, and that's gonna help keep the pH. It's gonna help to offset any acidity. It'll help with pH. The pink salt. If you guys aren't aware, this is, some of you guys, you're worried about your blood pressure. Doctor told you to stop eating salt. And one of the main distinctions with good salt and bad salt is how they prepare it. When they take salt, generally like table salt, you know that that's not good for you, the white stuff, they superheat it to over 1,000 degrees. And what that does is it destroys all the minerals in there. So with the pink salt, you have something that's solar dried or air dried. So it's not denatured, not destroyed, and it has all the minerals that you need. And what that does is it helps promote hydration. When you don't have the minerals, the cells cannot absorb the fluid. So you could be drinking a lot of water and it could be passing right through because the cells are kind of like raisins. They're all pruned up. But the minerals help them plump up and retain the fluid. So it's something to think about. I put this on, that pink salt I put on all my food. Himalayan sea salt, pink salt, there's all types of salts. So just make sure you get something that you can add so that you are helping with hydration. By the way, that's good for discs too in your spine, lumbar spine. You know, like when you're doing your wobble cushion, think about this, because if you're well hydrated, it's going to help with the hydration of those discs. Stop the degeneration. That's important, isn't it? Same thing with your neck. When you're standing there and you're doing the traction, that distraction is a pumping motion which is circulating the fluid in and out of the discs. The minerals help with holding that water in the discs. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the other thing when we talk about exercise? By the way, the core four is function, fitness, nutrition, and education. And when it comes to fitness, you know, again, it's not an option anymore. There's studies that are coming out now. Cleveland Clinic, 13-year study, 122,000 patients. It was just published. It said like sitting is the new smoking. You're more likely to die early from sitting too much than you are from smoking. Did you know that? They said you're being unfit on a treadmill on an exercise stress test has a worse prognosis as far as death than being hypertensive, diabetic, or a current smoker. So ask your doctor if getting off your butt is good for you. Yeah. Exercising more than once annually has been shown to be beneficial. Some of you might be exercising 2 days a week, maybe 3 days a week, and that may be enough. Maybe it's not. This is one of those questions that you should be thinking about. Maybe you need to be upping your game. Maybe you need to be doing something every day. There's nothing wrong with a day of rest. But I think there's something to be said for movement, and when you're moving, you're creating what? Oxygen. And what doesn't like oxygen? Cancer. Yeah, so, you got to think also in terms of exercise as a medicine. So I'm not supposed to say don't take your drugs, but I will say this. It is possible to reduce your blood pressure. It's possible to reverse your diabetes. by everything that we're talking about. It's possible to reduce and get off medications, but you have to do something instead. And there's not one person here who knows this is not true. This is true, right? They know that people who exercise consistently, daily, those are the people that have the highest risk reduction of cancer. Right or right?
Right.
You know that. So again, it's a matter of scheduling it. And you go live in a country like China or Belgium, you don't have to schedule it. You're walking to work, you're riding your bike. Here in the United States, you have to schedule time for it. Now I say do it in the morning, because if your schedule gets a hold of you, you're done. You're not your own anymore. That means if you don't get up 30 minutes early and put this as a priority, you're done. And if you can't make a commitment to yourself and your schedule, who else can't you commit to? Do you not like keeping? How many of you guys hate when you break a promise? You hate when you break promises to other people. Why don't you hate when you break promises to yourself? That's where commitment starts. If you commit to yourself, and if you have the integrity to not break a promise to yourself, I guarantee you'll honor those commitments to everyone around you. Who can anchor to an unanchored mind? Think about that. So we should all be starting our days with this. This is something we can all do better with. And it should get to the point where it's just a habit. You don't even think about it. It's just in your schedule. It's just what you do. You get up, you pray, you read your Bible, you go exercise. Boom, and it's done. And you don't do anything in your day until that's checked off the list. That's the most important thing. Give your first fruits to the Lord. Okay, let's talk about cancer-causing toxins. We know that toxins cause cancer, right? Again, this is the environment that's turning on the cancer-promoting genes and turning off the cancer-fighting genes. This is where it happens, right here. Are prescription drugs toxic? Yes, that's a fact. We talked about that earlier. Cancer-causing impurities in many of the prescription drugs. What about our soap? Yeah, sodium lauryl sulfate in that, the sudsing agents in that, and in your toothpaste, the aluminum in your deodorant, aluminum or thimerosal in childhood vaccinations, flu shots, amalgam in the mercury fillings. If you have one amalgam filling, you've exceeded the EPA safety limits by more than 10 times. Okay, so that stuff, it vaporizes in your brain when you brush your teeth or you have a cleaning, amalgam fillings. Did you know that lead is in our water sources? In over 2,000 water sources in the United States, they have higher lead levels than in Flint, Michigan. And what does that do to your blood pressure? Through the roof. Yep, hypertension. Drug-resistant hypertension, they're finding now, comes from lead poisoning, which is in our water, it's in our lipstick, it's in the contact lens cleaners that they don't make it with them anymore, but how many of us did that for decades, living in homes with lead paint? So that's why the EPA put out a statement and said your indoor environment is two to 5 times more toxic than your outdoor environment. It's not the pollution outdoors anymore, it's the pollution where? Indoors. Yeah, inside our body. So let's talk about glyphosate. Does everybody know what glyphosate is? It's the active ingredient in Roundup. So this is where GMO comes into play. This is why the non-GMO is so important. What is GMO? Genetically modified organism. Genetically modified to withstand the onslaught of the pesticide. So it kills everything around it except what's been genetically modified. What are the 2 things that have been genetically modified? That's in 80% of everything that we eat. Corn and what else? Soy. Very good. Yep. So go down to our favorite Mexican restaurant, shove it down the corn chips, the tortillas. They use it in the burgers now. There's corn. They feed the cows corn. They feed the fish corn. It's all throughout the food. All the food supply. It's in everything in the food chain. Yeah. In our drinks, high fructose corn syrup. Yeah, it's in everything. So that stuff is going into us, and what is it causing? Cancer. These are laboratory animals that they injected GMO into their food supply, and within weeks they grew huge tumors. Yeah. So it's cumulative. It's cumulative. All of it. So your body, your cells are like buckets, and this stuff goes into us faster than we can get it out. What happens? Your bucket overflows. And that's basically what it is. And then we have flu shots. Flu shots, good Lord. What's in a flu shot? Formaldehyde? It's in the childhood vaccinations also, by the way. Thimerosal, egg protein, monkey kidney cell pus. aborted fetal tissue in some of the cultures, polysorbate 80, sucrose, gelatin, penicillin, antibiotics. Talk about a cocktail of poisons. And you put that into a child who hasn't developed an immune system, and then you have your answer as to how that can trigger in many children autism or mental retardation or diabetes. That type of insult to the immune system could cause just about anything. But you know, people line up today and they get flu shots, and they do this every single year. Aside of the fact that you have Dr. Hugh Freudenberg, one of the world's leading immunologists. He put out a paper. He's got over 850 peer-reviewed journals. He said that if you have 5 or more consecutive annual flu shots, you've increased your risk of Alzheimer's by more than 10 times. Now, I mean, that's just an aside. Like, if you stop and think about that. And here's the kicker. Here's the saddest part. So this is for the 18-19 flu season, and the research that they did most recently, they found that the flu shot has an 8% effectiveness against H1N1. Wow. Those are world report statistics now. 8%. So you hear from anybody that the flu shot even works, you got to laugh and walk the other way. And here's the other thing, and I want you to remember this, because sometimes I have to chuckle too when people say, oh, I'm like, where have you been? I haven't seen you in 3 weeks. Oh, I had the flu. How do you know you had the flu? Well, I had the cough, the fever, the aches. Really? How do you know it was the flu? You don't know it was the flu because there are 200 viruses that cause flu-like symptoms. And the last time they did the world database, it was called the Cochrane Database Study, they collected all these samples from all these other doctors' offices around the world. Only 14% actually had the flu that infected them. 86% of the time, it's not the flu. It's flu-like symptoms. Rhinoviruses, adenoviruses, different things that feel just like the flu. It's not the flu. It's just your body doing what it's supposed to do to kill it off, right? What is a normal course of events for your body to kill off a bacteria or virus? Fever, yeah. What else? Aching, you know. So all of that, it's supposed to cause you to shiver, to keep your body temperature up, to keep you warm. All of these things are part of the healing process. So I always like you guys to think about that, because remember what we said when we first started, the body's not stupid, it's what? It's smart. So here's what happens with all the toxins, the onslaught of toxins into your body. At a cellular level, you got the DNA inside. Remember we said that? And the DNA inside is subject to what happens outside. So all the toxins, the bad fats, the sugars, when it comes to the surface of the cell, it irritates the cell, it damages the cell, and it causes what? Inflammation. And now the cell wall is blunted. And because of that, you've disrupted the integrity of the cell membrane. Now the good stuff can't get in, and the bad stuff can't get out. And so what happens to all those toxins inside? They pull the levers. They shut the cancer-fighting genes off, and they turn the cancer-promoting genes on. You see? And that's a recipe for toxicity. Kind of like when I woke up this morning, my wife forgot to dump the old coffee out of the coffee pot. And so there I go, putting my new coffee into my water. And I go put my sneakers on, I'm getting ready for my workout, and I come back and I'm like, that looks like a little more coffee than I usually make. And I'm like, darn it, she didn't empty out that disgusting, old, cold coffee. And I don't have time to make a new pot. So what did I do? I ate that disgusting, nasty, old coffee mixed with the new. And that's exactly what's going on in our cells. Got the point? So we got to get I know that Nellie never does that to you. Never. So leave the filter in there. Yeah, she left the filter in too. It was not a good day. So you guys get the picture. It's like it's all this is filling up in our cells, and that's what's altering the expression of the genes because of the bad environment. When the buckets fill up and more is going in than we can get out, it starts to spill over. And that's when we start having symptoms. Fatigue, malaise, dizziness, irritability, diabetes, weight gain, fibromyalgia, cancer. So that inflammation is a critical indicator, and you need to look at that when you get your blood reports from your medical doctors. You may have a vitamin D, which is also a high risk. Like if your vitamin D levels are low, you want to look for that. If they do a blood test, you need to be taking a vitamin D supplement. Then the other is the CRP, the C-reactive protein, which will tell you where your inflammation levels are, and it'll tell you whether or not you're a high-risk cancer candidate. So we started doing this a couple of months ago. We have a blood kit in the office that can generate a report and tell you exactly what your inflammation and your vitamin D levels are. So if that's something that you need help with, we have that resource. Just some general recommendations, supplements, why I take these supplements, why you may want to take these supplements. The Ultraplex Complete Clean is the shake that I take in the morning. As far as detoxification, we have the Metaclear. One of the most important things that helps with glutathione, which is what is the major intercellular and intracellular detoxification. It's what pulls the toxins out. The glutathione, you need N-acetylcysteine. This has 150 milligrams. We used to promote the Thorne Metaclear, which tastes great, and I took it for a long time, but that has 50 milligrams. And the reason why I switched to this is because you get triple the bang for the buck with the N-acetylcysteine, and that helps significantly with detoxification. Another thing that helps with detoxification is the watercress, which is in this, and then another thing is the turmeric extract, which is the curcumin. So you get a little bit of that in there also. It's got 15 grams of carbs, but it's got 26 grams of protein, super high in protein. And that's how it's got about 12, I think 8 or 12 grams of fat. Don't quote me, I'm not really sure. But this is more of like a meal replacement. Now on top of this, I'll have this because it's got a good protein supply. I'll have this after my workout, but then I'll still have some berries and some more fat also. Just depends on how hard you work out. Even if you don't work out, it's a good meal replacement, but it's good to start off with this in the morning. Ultraplex Onco, and this is part of your supplement suite. We talked about antioxidants and how important they are for cancer killing, right? Okay. So this particular supplement has the equivalency of 2 pounds of broccoli. So the cruciferous vegetables are significantly important in terms of fighting off cancer. You guys know this, right? And the problem with the fruits and the vegetables that we have today is what?
Pesticides, GMOs.
Pesticides and GMOs, and then by the time they get to our, they've been sitting on a truck for a week. By the time they land in our counter or refrigerator, well, you're getting a fraction of the vitamins and the nutrients. So that's why the supplementation, it's not a, it's not like a maybe we should do this. It's if you're serious about your health, you really should be investing in this to make sure that you're plugging up all the leaks in your bucket. So this is something that helps with detoxification, anti-inflammatory, and super high in antioxidants. The Ultraplex Curcumin is more evidence-backed literature on this as a cancer preventative than almost any other supplement on the planet. So this decreases inflammation. Studies show it kills cancer cells. I take 4 of these a day, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. And then CoQ10. Why is CoQ10 important? What cells need CoQ10? All of them, yes. We talked about it in the Heart Smart Nutrition, especially if you're taking statin medications, but every cell in your body needs CoQ10. And if there's a depletion of that, especially if you're on statin medications or you have low cholesterol, that's an issue. So to make new healthy cells, you need CoQ10. And then last but not least, vitamin D. Do you know where your vitamin D levels are? Are they sufficient? You need to be taking at least 5,000 international units or more. My mom was taking 20 or 30,000 when she was under treatment. Studies show one of the best ways to prevent most major cancers is to maintain an optimal vitamin D level, right? Strong evidence you can reduce your risk of breast, prostate, colon, lung, pancreatic, and ovarian cancers by how much? 50%. By 50%, yeah. Journal of Epidemiology said that they showed that they were able to reduce their chances of getting colds and flus to almost 0 if they had 5,000 international units. The problem is we've been told to take 400 international units just to prevent rickets and scurvy, and we missed all the cancer-killing benefits of this. So that's why this is so important. So that's your supplement suite tonight. It's 15% off. We only discount at the workshops, so if it's something that you guys want to take advantage, They'll have some up there. They don't have a lot, but they will have some. Google reviews. This is also if you want a 25% discount. How many of you guys read reviews? Okay. Some of you guys have been kind enough to post reviews. I want to say thank you, because people read these things. Let me tell you, we live in a different day and age today. We have people who come in here and say, you know what, I've been looking for a chiropractor and I read your reviews and they were really good. And it's because of many of you in the room who have written that. You've encouraged people to come in and they've had their lives changed. You have no idea. I got to tell you, my wife picked up a dog coming home from church last night. It was an old dog meandering, I think it was like a Jack Russell. It was just in the middle of the street. It didn't even know where it's going. It looked dehydrated. She picked it up, took it home. My son jumps out of the truck with it. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, it was just lost. It looks really bad. They put food out for it and water, and it's bumping in the walls. I'm like, this thing's old. It's going to keel over, And so, anyway, make a long story short, they put it all over social media, right? And I'm sitting at home today during lunch, and the phone rings, and guess who it was?
Dog owner.
The dog's owner. Comes right over, nicest guy in the world. He's got his 85-year-old mom sitting in the car, puts it in her arms. Oh, Henry!
Wow.
I'm like, so what's how it got loose?
Yeah.
I don't know, it didn't have a tag. I don't want to make him feel bad, but I'm like, what's going on with the dog? He's like bumping on the walls, he doesn't hear. Like I was slamming doors and it was like, he's deaf. The dog was deaf. I mean, but none of that really mattered. All that really mattered is they got their dog back, It's like, their lives have been changed. I mean, the dog's life has changed, but their lives changed, and that was just so heartwarming. And the same thing happens when you help people regain their health in their life. It's the greatest blessing in the world. Keep doing it. You're a force for good. Like with all the stuff happening out in the world today, keep doing it. You're changing lives. And I really appreciate that. And that's why we give you the gift certificate. Tell somebody, save a life, write a review, give you 25% off, whatever you want up there. I'll bribe you any way I can to save lives, whatever it takes. So update on my mom, she's doing good. Here's the key, guys. It's not just the treatment, it's maintaining this. More important than the cure is maintaining it. More important than fixing it is what? Maintaining it. I always tell you guys that when you start chiropractic care. More important than fixing your spine is what? Maintaining it. She's still doing the keto diet, alkalizing nutrition, anti-inflammatory nutrition, anti-cancer supplements to go with the cake that she gave my dad for his 79th birthday, and detoxing. And what was interesting is Dr. Helu was looking for a chiropractor in Spain for his clinic. But in the meantime, he was using like an instrument to stimulate the nervous system. So what does that tell you? Those of you who are getting adjusted under chiropractic care? Yeah, there's something to that. This guy, Peter Matloff, was a patient of mine. If you ever go into the restroom and you look at the wall, there's a clown, and he's in the doctor's office, and it says, I think I have a subluxation of my funny bone. And he's got like tears there. Peter gave me that as a thank you, because I think it was in 2005 or 2004, he came to me and said, listen, I have metastatic stage 4 cancer. It's metastasized from my lungs all throughout my spine. What should I do? I trust you. I've been a patient here for a while. And so I told him what to do, and he got adjusted. He increased his frequency. And he decided to do the chemotherapy, which, I supported him with whatever decision that he made. But it was rough on him. And he had major chemo treatment probably 3 times. And he would clear up for a couple of years, but he still kept coming, and he never missed his adjustments, even though he was doing that. He understood the power of the adjustment. He understood how important it was to keep the immune system strong, especially under the onslaught of all the chemotherapy. So, 2 years goes by, which, the 5-year survival rate for somebody who has cancer like that, what do you think that is? 2%. 2%, yeah. So 2 years came and went, 4 years came and went, 6 years comes and goes. It's going into his 7th year. And you know, every time he does the chemo, it kills the cancer, but it causes massive fluid buildup, and he had a lot of complications with that. So he'd keep having these bouts. So around the 7th year, the doctor diagnosed him again, recommended that he had chemo, and he said I'll never forget this. He asked the doc. He's like, what do you do with a patient like me? You told me I was going to be dead, you know, 6.5 years ago. He's like, well, I've never had a patient, you know, with your diagnosis go this long. He's like, so whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. And you know, Peter eventually succumbed, and it wasn't to the cancer. It was the chemotherapy. It was the treatment for the cancer that killed him. It was the fluid building up in his lungs that eventually killed him, not the cancer. But I will say that the chiropractic adjustments, extended his life, and it helped him with his quality of life. And it was probably about 6 months before this picture was taken. This is his grandson, Michael, who was being bar mitzvahed. Now, this 6 months before, he was ready to go. He was ready to go, and he knew it. He's like, I just want to see my grandson bar mitzvahed. And like I think somehow that was his motivation for staying alive many of those years. And because of chiropractic care, I believe he was able to see that. And he died like right after that happened. And it was a testimony for him. It was a testimony for me. For me to be able to tell you this one thing, very simple. Chiropractic is not a treatment. It's not a cure for anything. But I will say this: you're better off without interference to the nerve system than you are with leaving it there, right? Whether you have cancer or diabetes or any disease, you're better off not having interference to the nerve system. Chiropractic removes interference to your nerve system. That's what's controlling your immune system, right? So the last time they did a study with New York University Cancer Research Center, they studied the immune systems of cancer patients, non-cancer patients, and non-cancer patients under chiropractic care 5 years or more. And they found that the chiropractic patients had immune systems that were how much stronger? 300%. So for those of you in the room right now, those of you who are getting adjusted, yeah, with noticing that you breathe better, you don't get sick as often, everybody in the office is getting the flu, and you know, years go by and you look back, you're like, I haven't gotten a cold in a couple of years. This is all speaking to that. What is happening to the risk of cancer with you getting adjusted? It's what? It's going down. Yeah, as you get stronger and stronger with your immune system. Dr. David Felton, University of Rochester, said that if you took the nerve fibers in every organ, especially going to the spleen and the lymph nodes, if you took those nerve fibers, you virtually stop the immune system dead in its tracks. And particularly the nerves at the upper part of the neck and the mid-back affect the immune system more than anything. And these are the two areas that I always work on with people who are trying to recover from an illness or fighting cancer. Very, very important. In fact, when I graduated, I learned of this study when I was a first quarter student at Life University, my first quarter in chiropractic school. And they did work on HIV positive patients. So they took a group of AIDS patients and they gave them real chiropractic adjustments, and then they took a control group of AIDS patients in the same study and they gave them sham chiropractic adjustments, fake chiropractic adjustments, right? So what do you think happened? The people with who got the sham adjustments, what happened to their CD4, their white blood cell count, the primary marker component of their immune system? Did anything change? No. Nothing. Yeah. What happened with the ones who got the real adjustment? Right up here, only at the top bone of the neck. What happened? They had an increase of 48% in white blood cell count, the CD4 count, the primary component that they look at with people with HIV. So I was intrigued by this. And 4 years later, after I graduated, one of the first things I did was go over to a shelter, an AIDS shelter in Fort Lauderdale. And I donated my time. I said, the only thing that I want is the blood reports every 30 days after your patients get tested. And I sat them in chairs, and all I did was adjust their neck, that top bone, just like in the study. See that top bone right there? Right there. They were subluxated. They all had pressure jamming into their brainstem. And I would adjust all of them, remove as much pressure as I could, restore the normal communication from the brain to the body. And what do you think happened to their white blood cell count? What do you think happened to their viral load? Yeah, many of them were able to get off their AZT and their AIDS medications. It was remarkable. It was dramatic. Like, I didn't have any patients that didn't see improvement. when they were under my care. Just from one adjustment, one area. So next time you see a sign here, flu adjustments here, or flu shots here, think to yourself, flu adjustments here, right here. Not a flu shot. You don't want a flu shot. You want a flu adjustment. Okay, because that's what's going to tune up your immune system, not make you toxic. So you guys know what subluxation is. The most dangerous thing about subluxation, whether it's on your brainstem or any part of your spine, is most of the time you can't feel it. We're also mired in this understanding of a pinched nerve, like we could feel a pinched nerve. You can't feel a pinched nerve any more than you could feel the early stages of a cavity. And so with pressure on a nerve like that, you can, like the weight of a dime can reduce the nerve transmission through there by 60% in just 3 minutes. They found this at the University of Colorado. And if that's shutting down nerve supply to your liver, or to your pancreas, or to any part of the body, that part of the body is not making normal cells. When cells become out of control from the brain, they go rogue. They do whatever they want. They start doing things without a function. That's called cellular proliferation without differentiation. That is the very definition of cancer. Okay, so when you have subluxation, you are setting the foundation for abnormal cellular replication, which is setting the course for what? Cancer. So every time you get adjusted, you're opening up the nerve channels to prevent that. So that's why we don't guess, we test. You know, if you're under regular chiropractic care, you're getting these scans 3 times a year. We'll take a set of pictures, maybe once a year. And you should be doing this. Like for those of you who are not patients in this office, this is not something your medical doctor is looking for. You know, they're not going to check your spine. They're not going to do things preventatively. But you should be seeing a chiropractor on some sort of regular basis to make sure that there's no obstruction to those nerve channels, because again, you cannot feel it. Now, if you haven't had that checked in a long time or ever, then that's something that we always invite guests to do. If you are a guest here tonight and you don't have a chiropractor, you've never been checked, you can have the thermal scan done, and we rarely do this, but we include the x-rays if they're necessary. It's about $300 worth of service for only $47. That's a detailed consultation with me. I sit down, I get a little bit of information, your family history, and then we do an examination, and we do the thermal scan, which is NASA space technology. It helps us pinpoint where any interference may be. And if you need x-rays, it's included also. That's probably one of the most profound, preventative, important things that you could do for your health ever. Because what is it worth to prevent cancer? Priceless, yeah. So again, so if you're a guest and you want to take advantage of that, you can see Deborah. Go ahead and raise your hand, Deborah, so the guests can see. You're welcome to make an appointment. The offer's only good tonight, and you know, it's only if you're serious about your health. I'm happy to do that for you. And then so 100% of that $47 goes to our mission to Haiti. It's a mission we've been supporting in our church since the earthquake in 2010. 100% of those funds go to that. So it's a win-win. It's something that we love being a part of, and if that's something that we can help you with, fantastic. All right. So last thing is Tiger Woods. Is that inspiring? Quitters never win, and winners never quit. Are you a winner? Yeah. Say, I'm a winner. I'm a winner. If you're a winner, you'll be back for next month's workshop. You'll think about some of the things that we talked about. What can you do better, right? If you need some supplements, talk to the ladies up front. Guests, make your nerve system evaluation, and take action. Thank you for being here tonight, guys. I love and appreciate you. God bless.